So I'd like to speak to you today about emotional well-being. I think it's an important topic. This morning, I opened my sock drawer and I had a moment of joy. I'm digging through trying to match them up, and I've got socks from years ago, and that sparked memories that made me happy. I don't know if you get so happy going through your sock drawer, but it was a cool experience. And what's even better is that I was aware that I was having a happy moment. So last week I talked about prosperity through elimination, getting rid of stuff, creating a vacuum so that fresh stuff could come in. And I decided I would practice what I preached. So in the guest bedroom, over in the corner, I've got a big basket. And in that basket are transcripts of talks I have given at my former church, which was Unity of Fairfax in Northern Virginia. I had the sweetest sort of office assistant. She was from India, and her grandmother was a princess. My assistant was named Shaheen, nicknamed Shizzy, and she spoke 5 languages. She was educated in London and had really lived a privileged life. The thing about Shaheen was, bless her heart, I'd hear her in the copy room kicking that copy machine. And I had to kind of take her aside and say, Shaheen, this is a church. Bless her heart. She was married to a University of Connecticut football player who was really tall, linebacker. And she was about this tall, like Thumbelina. Anyway, this is totally not what I'm talking about, but allow me to just have a moment of remembrance. Shaheen was pregnant, and she was called down to Tampa, Florida, because her mother from India was visiting her sister in Tampa. So she goes down there only to learn that her mother had leukemia and was dying. She died before Shaheen could have her baby. After her baby was born, we let her bring her baby to the office while Shaheen did her work. And she would plug in these videos, Baby Einstein, educating her little baby. That experience changed her to where she was the most gentle, loving, grateful, supportive person. I remember she used to sit at her desk and read a book. And her idea was that I was supposed to tell her what to do. And I said, it's the other way around, Shaheen. You tell me what I need to be doing. We got along great. We got along great. Happiness. What makes you happy? Well, I'll tell you, in clearing out my clutter, I came across a talk I did 20 years ago. And I read through this talk and I thought, wow, why reinvent the wheel? I agree with this talk. So I'm going to share it with you, which is something I don't normally do. I don't like reruns. But this one, I hope that you will benefit from it. So, here we go. Abraham Lincoln said, "A man is just about as happy as he makes up his mind to be." I know that pertains to women as well. I love that because I believe that. I agree with that. Therefore, I like that. If I didn't agree with it, I might not like it as much. And so it goes in life. We choose that which makes us happy. And what is interesting about Abraham Lincoln is he suffered from clinical depression. Not that he didn't have a few things on his mind. A person is about as happy as they make up their mind to be. It does not mean that people do not experience challenges. Each and every one of us this morning has some challenge in some area of life because we are alive. If we had no challenges, our soul would be non-essential and there would be no creative edge for us to move with and to discover things about ourselves. So challenges, no matter what they are, come to bless us, and we decide how we're going to approach life. Either we are going to decide that we are in a friendly universe and everything is here to ensure our success, or we will decide that it's all up to me. Everybody is out for themselves and I must compete. The interesting thing about these mindsets is that our natural state of being is one of gentleness, peacefulness, and compassion. Fear is a learned response 99% of the time, unless we are chased by tigers. Anyone been chased by a tiger lately? Fear is something that is generated by the thoughts and the stories we tell ourselves. When I reflect on my life, and surely you must reflect on yours, we see how we've come to be who we are. And I see clearly that who I am today, 20 years ago, to a large extent is based on what I have told myself is true over the years. It's not about what happened to me in childhood. It's not about what happened to me in my reckless, crazy youth. It's not about what is happening to me now. All of that is external. Who I am and how I'm showing up and how I'm experiencing this world is directly related to what I'm telling myself about my experience. What I'm telling myself I need in order to be happy. We each determine what we need. So let me ask you this morning, what do you need to be happy? And do you need something that you don't already have? If you need something that you don't already have, let me ask you a further question. Is there something you can do about it? Are you procrastinating making a decision? If there's something you can do about it, then do it. And if there's nothing you can do about it, then let it go. Let go and let God. We hear that a lot, but it cannot be stated enough. It is when we let go of the way we think life ought to be that we can begin to perceive the gift that life truly is. But most of us have a mental picture in our mind of how life should be. Life should be showing up this way. And usually those shoulds have to do with power and they have to do with security. We have security issues when we feel that we are in an unfriendly world. We are not able to move about in our world freely and to trust that God is providing for every need at the right time and in the right way. We live by fear. Deepak Chopra said, "A need to know and to be certain is simply an attachment to the known." Known. That is past. What is known is past. You don't know what the future holds. I don't think God does. And I'm serious. And you know why? Because we're creating in this moment. There's a field of infinite possibilities, and you and I, with our consciousness, are creating in this moment. This I do know. God says yes. God always says yes. So decide what it is that makes you happy. Is it more power? One of the reasons we fear change so much is it really challenges our ability to control life so that life aligns with our inner addictions. Our inner addictions are our false beliefs that we cling to and defend. The stuff we tell ourselves that we have to have in order to be loved, in order to give love, in order to be respected, or to respect other people, in order to have a sense of well-being. Yet we all know people who've had tremendous challenges, and their sense of well-being and their ability to love was not impeded. Their consciousness of happiness was not diminished in any way. When we remove the limitations that we've placed on ourselves, the conditions that life has to show up in a certain way, and we begin to relax and trust that there is a presence that is supporting us and is here to bless us, then we begin to experience life differently. Rather than having fear and anxiety and violence and aggression and all of these symptoms that are so prevalent in our culture, if we just let go of it and return to our natural state of peace and gentleness, the real solutions will present themselves. It was Einstein who said that problems are never solved at the same level that they were created. When we let go of our ideas of how the problem needs to be solved, then a greater, more creative solution comes up. When I was a child, I had my challenges just like everyone else. My family had their challenges like everyone else. As I've shared with you before, there was a lot of turmoil and dysfunction, a lot of moving about here and there. But one of the things that gave me comfort early on is this passage in Matthew. Most of you have heard it. When I'm reading it to you today, I ask that you listen to it emotionally, because this passage is speaking to our level of emotional maturity, our level and our ability to respond to life. Because we can know something in our minds, but yet in our life we fail to experience it. It doesn't go from the mind to the heart and into action, it just stays up here. When someone asks us about it, we can give the right answer. But when we're caught in life itself, is the right answer observed in us? Are we experiencing the right answer emotionally? So this is Matthew chapter 6, verse 25. Therefore, I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air. They neither sow, nor reap, nor gather in the barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not of more value than they? Can any of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your span of life? And why do you worry about clothing? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin, yet I tell you, even Solomon in all his glory was not clothed like one of these. But if God so clothes the grass of the field, which is alive today and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, will he not much more clothe you? Therefore do not worry, saying, what will we eat, or what will we drink? What's for dinner tonight, honey? The eternal question. What will we wear? For indeed Your heavenly Father knows that you have need of these things. But strive first for the kingdom of God and righteousness, and all of these things will be given to you as well. Now, I've heard this my whole life. I was in unity for many years before I finally understood that. Because what I heard was God's going to give me all the stuff. But what this is really talking about is emotional well-being. The ability to let go of the consciousness of lack and limitation and restriction. When I first came into unity, I showed up on the threshold and I was full of lack and limitation. I needed money. I needed direction in my life. I needed healing. I needed. I was so happy to find unity because unity taught me. Unity said, you know, you created this with the thoughts you're thinking and the stuff you're telling yourself. You attracted these experiences. This was an eye-opener for me. But the good news is you created it, you can uncreate it. And you can create something better. But the best news beyond that is I didn't have to think of something better. Something better was already within me, pushing to come out. God had created something better, and all I had to do was let go of the ways that I kept affirming, it's not true, it's not true, it's not true. I'm not worthy. It never happened to me. Blah, 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 blah. I had to release that old way of thinking. So naturally, in my state of neediness, the first thing I went for was the prosperity. All of my affirmations were about manifesting this and manifesting that. And through the years, I manifested a lot of stuff, and I lost a lot of stuff. And I manifested a lot of stuff, and I lost a lot of stuff. Then after a while in life with that yo-yo back and forth, and you may have your own personal yo-yo, maybe it's relationships, maybe it's health, maybe it's whatever. You come to see that it's not about the stuff. It's about consciousness, no matter what the external circumstances are. We are about as happy as we make up our minds to be. But you see, I settled for less. I took my divine power thinking, if I could just have a car, then I would know that God loved me. Reminds me of a story I read, a little joke. There was a young man who took his new sweetheart up to the door. He was saying good night, and all of a sudden, in a spontaneous burst of spontaneous courage, he lurched forward and he kissed her on the chin. Then he stepped back and he says, well, how'd you like that, sweetheart? And she said, oh, pretty fair, pretty fair. Next time, aim a little higher. When we lift our aim, we get the real joys of life. And we don't have to settle for missing the mark. We don't have to tell ourselves that this is all life will ever be. When we aim a little higher and lift our consciousness, we realize that we are here to show the glory of God, to experience the glory of God. Each one of us is a light. Turn up the wattage. We are not here to grapple with the challenges and the problems that face us. They are merely incidental. What we are here for is to raise our vibration so that when we walk through this world, we make a difference, not by what we say, but mostly by how we feel, because how we feel is translated into how we act. And yes, it begins with a thought, but that thought has to be connected to the heart in order to find real peace, in order to find real happiness. How do we do this? Well, there's no such thing as a happy pill. I don't care what they tell you on TV. I don't care what they tell you on the street corners. There's no such thing as a happy pill. It takes discipline. It takes discernment. It takes conviction and dedication to a certain way of being in the world. It takes learning about ourselves, our world, and other people. Out of that learning comes a conviction, and out of that conviction, out of that belief, comes a determination to experience life in a certain way. And out of that determination, we move through our challenges and we take right actions. And the right actions shift everything. Those steps are from the Dalai Lama on how to find peace and happiness. Learn, become convicted, committed. Become determined to take the right action, and you will find that life is unfolding beautifully at your footsteps, providing you with opportunities. But more than that, you will know that you have within you every resource to meet every challenge and to know your fullness regardless of what happens to you. Now, I want to close this morning with a story about Art Linkletter. Art Linkletter was an adopted child. His biological mother abandoned him when he was young. And the people who adopted him were named Linkletter. So he became Arthur Linkletter. This family was very, very poor. Art tells of the fact that his father was a door-to-door salesman, and there were many kids in his family. His father was also a preacher, part-time. Then his father got the calling to preach full-time, and Art Linkletter said, then we really had no money. He began preaching full-time, and eventually they ended up living in a shelter for families. At age 16, he graduated from high school early and struck out on his own to find a better life for himself. He took up the hobo's life. So here's Art Linkletter in the back of a boxcar on a train with a friend this one evening when two thugs got on the boxcar with him. They struck a match and came over and said, as long as this match is lit and you don't move, everything will be okay. They began searching him. They found $1.30. And over to the side, Art says that they didn't find the $10 that was sewn in the lining of his jacket. But they did take the $1.30. Then they robbed his friend of $2.70. Art Linkletter says, then suddenly the match went out. He said he could hear the click of a gun. He said, I knew they had nothing to lose by killing us. I was gripped with fear. And then I suddenly had the thought that if my father knew what predicament I was in, surely he would be praying for me now. With that thought, a calmness came over him. A calmness, a centeredness, a peacefulness. He said he heard them take a step back, and the next thing he felt was one of the guys putting 30 cents into his hand and saying, here's your lunch money for tomorrow. He gave him 30 cents back before they got off the train. Art Linkletter went on to become one of the most successful TV personalities. He had 2 shows, Children say the darndest things, and aren't people funny? I used to watch Art Linkletter when I was a kid, and I remember two responses. He asked a group of kids, if you're going to Mars and you can only take one thing, what would it be? And this little girl piped up and said, a pink Easter egg. The other thing was, he said, finish this sentence. Don't count your chickens before, and this little boy said, they rip your lips off. Some things you just don't forget, you know? So, he dedicated his life to bringing happiness to people. One thing you may not know is that at the beginning of his show, every show started with the reading of the daily word, which show it right there on the screen. And then Art Linkletter came on and spoke to people. There might have been a little bit of his father in him. He had every opportunity to tell a hard luck story and to believe it. It's not that we can't share our challenges and what we're going through. It's what we tell ourselves about them that makes a difference in the world. Are you telling yourself that you are a spiritual being here? Are you telling yourself that no matter what comes knocking on your door, you have everything to meet it? Or are you telling yourself that this is all life will ever be? You don't know if you'll ever be happy. What are you telling yourself? My wish is that you tell yourself the truth, for in knowing the truth, you will be made free. Thank you for letting me share this talk from so long ago.